Welcome to today's Awesome Marriage Podcast. My special guest today is Amie Seiffert. Amie is an author, a speaker, a pastor, a wife. She's the co-ringmaster to their circus of 3 kids. As a family, they walk through infertility, depression, anxiety, a Crohn's disease diagnosis, an ADHD diagnosis, and several other valleys and mountaintops. And they've seen how God has walked with them through all of these. She is also the co-host of the Seminary Sisters podcast, and her new book is called Your Name is Daughter. Amie is a very special person. Let's go to the studio right now. Amie, welcome to Awesome Marriage Podcast. I'm so excited to have you today and to get to meet you. I've followed you for quite a while, love what you do and your ministry, and just thanks for coming on and sharing some time with me and with our listeners and viewers today.
Oh, thanks for inviting me. I'm very honored to be here and looking forward to it.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, tell people just a little bit about you to start with, and then we'll get into some of the other things.
Yeah, I wear many hats, as many people do. I am an author and a speaker and a pastor, and I am in my second year of seminary, and I've got 3 kids who are all over the place, a senior, a middle schooler, and an elementary schooler. And celebrating 24 years of marriage come this May, which is really
Congratulations.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just a little bit of everything,
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. I'd forgotten that you were in seminary. How was that going? I remember my days from there.
Oh my goodness. You know what? It is so fun. It is the first all-female seminary cohort at Denver Seminary. And I know we're having so much fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so cool. That
Yeah.
is so cool.
Yeah. There's 16
Yeah.
of us and we are a rowdy bunch, but we're having a lot of fun.
Oh, that is really neat. That's really
Yeah.
neat. Yeah, I honestly had to go into seminary on probation because my undergraduate grades were so bad. But
I love
when I got in and I was studying things that I was interested in, it
Yes.
was totally different. It was totally. I loved every bit of going to school. It was exciting,
Oh,
and
that's
that's so
so
neat that
fun.
you've got these women, the first female class to go through that. That's just
Mhm.
so exciting. Really,
Oh,
really
it's
cool.
so fun. We're giving our professors a run for their money. We're very chatty. We have a lot of questions. It's just so funny. There's crying,
So they're
there's like
thinking,
a whole
why
thing.
why did we do this?
Yes.
That's great.
It is
That's
great.
so good.
Yeah.
Well, you do wear a lot of hats, and so you said you grew up surrounded by writing, storytelling. How did you see that? When did that become like, okay, this is what God wants me to do?
Yeah, I did. I grew up hearing my dad banging against the typewriter when I was little.
Yeah.
And lots of word games around the house. And so I had always loved reading, writing, but it was really one teacher in high school that I remember in one of my English classes after a paper. I stayed after and she said, You can write. You're a writer.
Um,
And it just really to have somebody believe in you when you're 15 about words
mhm.
just really started to form an identity and then from there I was off and running. I'm like, okay, I felt that too, but to have someone affirm that. So yeah, writing has
Yeah.
been a long part of my story.
That's so good, and that
Yeah.
you saw your dad, and then, I look back on some of the teachers I had that were so encouraging, and
Yeah.
sometimes I don't know they realize that the mark they made. A couple of them I went back to tell them, but yeah, a teacher like that can make such a difference because you look up to them and they're
Yep.
this authority figure, and I mean, English, and I can write, and yeah, that's really exciting. It's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Teachers, yeah, they're
So
amazing. They can do so much.
so you talk about Jesus and the Bible, that was your passion. What was the defining moment for that?
Yeah, I remember so I didn't grow up opening my Bible. I the first when after I became a follower of Jesus when I was 16, I had been around the Catholic Church but didn't ever open an actual Bible. But when I did,
Mhm.
I was fascinated and floored and it was this ancient text that was very overwhelming to me as well. And I was
Yeah.
hungry for it. It was this piece of literature that I thought I don't know what's going on in here, but but it's full of gems and stories that I was starting to hear at youth group. So, yeah, I remember when my youth group leader opened one of the gospels and started telling me stories about Jesus. I was like, I want to read these. I want to see what's going on. And man, it quickly became my favorite text to explore
Mm.
and still is, 25 years
Yeah,
later.
yeah.
So, yeah.
So did you have kind of a natural curiosity with other things too? I mean, it sounds like once you heard that, it's like, okay, I got to know more about this stuff.
Yes. Yeah. And I think I'm a learner by nature. Hence, I went back to school mid 40s.
Right, right.
Yeah, so curiosity for sure. Yeah, I think the watching different pastors and teachers masterfully bring Bible stories to life, I was very interested on doing that, of really
Yeah.
making black and white words on paper come into color and look at the historical
Mm.
background and what was actually going on. Yeah, I was hooked. Stories, I'm hooked by stories, and I think stories can change lives. I mean, it's why we cry at
Oh,
movies, right?
absolutely.
Like, they just
Absolutely.
affect us. Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
so the Bible's full of them, and I just wanted to
Yeah.
dig in and know more.
Yeah, I think that's what there's so many cool things about the Bible, but the fact that I mean the story's all the same. People preached out a different text forever and ever, but each person can use the gifts God's given him, abilities to share it and make it come alive for people. Maybe they've heard the story before, but now they hear it in a different way just because of how we relay it to them. And no, I've always thought that was exciting too. It's just I had trouble with the Old Testament for a long time, and then I finally figured out, okay, Jesus is all the way through this book. But
Yes.
for a while, I had two gods in my life. This Old Testament God and the New Testament growing up, and it's like I'm not sure I like that one. I love this one, and
Yeah.
then I figuring out how to put those two together
Yes.
is fun. It really is fun.
Yeah.
Nancy, my wife and I, we read the Bible every year, and so now we just jumped into we're in Judges now. We made it through Leviticus and some
Whew.
things like that. That are just still hard for me.
Yeah.
It's like I read it, okay, because I said I'm going to read through the Bible in a year, but oh my gosh, this is still not that easy for me at
Yes.
all.
Yes.
So I think interesting. You were with. When did you join Crew? I know that because I had a background there. I went to International School of Theology for some of my work
Yeah.
when it was in San Bernardino. And so, how did you get to Crew?
Yeah, after I graduated high school, the university I went to, Bowling Green State University in Ohio,
Yeah.
had a thriving crew ministry, and I jumped right in. And I'll tell you, I jumped in because the guitar player up front was really cute. And I was like,
Well, that's not a bad reason.
who I ended up marrying. So it worked out.
So that was a real good reason.
Right. But,
um,
yeah, God can use all kinds of things, right? It's all good.
absolutely, absolutely.
But
No,
getting
that's
involved was so fun. Finding community, growing in my faith. I'd only been a follower of Jesus for a couple of years, and it was so fun to be on campus. And I think college ministry is so fun. Everybody's at a crossroads in their life. They're thinking about
yeah.
all kinds of deep things, who they are, what they're learning on campus, what they're leaving behind, what they're going to pick up. It's such a fascinating time. So I loved it. And from there, after being a student for 4 years, I knew I wanted to come on staff. So I ended up coming on staff with Crew for about 15 years or
Oh
so.
wow,
Yeah, which
that's
was really fun. And
that's
that
great.
we kind of pioneered it back in the day. They used to have both of us, husband and wife, used to have to come on staff together,
Right.
just because of the lifestyle of ministry. But we requested, is there a way? Because my husband said he was willing. He was more sure of the call on my life than his, and he was willing to come on staff, which was really sweet. But if there was another way, he is an artist and a filmmaker in his own right, and so we tried it, and it worked. And he's been doing his
Wow.
his path, and I've been doing mine, and yeah, it was great fun.
That's really cool. That is cool. So one of the things with Crew and pastoring, speaking, everything, how's your understanding of grace evolved out of that? Because I know sometimes with Crew, there's still the numbers, and you got to witness to people, you got to do all those kind of things. So how did your understanding of grace kind of evolve as you did those different things?
Yes. You know what? I had fantastic team leaders that I worked with
Mm.
who were not about the numbers. They were about the people. They were about changed lives. In fact, what was really fun was the number we cared about was involved non-believers. So people who didn't
Oh,
know
yeah.
Jesus yet, who were involved, who would belong before they believed. And that was a really compelling vision and mission if we had to count a number.
Hmm.
We wanted people who didn't know Jesus to be around us. So I didn't
Yeah.
ever really the numbers in and of themselves, but as far as grace, that was a through line for our ministry constantly. Like there was no
That's so good.
there was no coming to the Lord without grace and staying in friendship with grace. We are held by grace. Like everything is gift. Gift is grace. I love that
Hmm.
synonym for grace. And
Yes.
yeah, that was one of the hard. I'm very fortunate. There wasn't a lot of legalism. There's a lot of grace in the ministry.
I love that focus and just focusing on the unbelievers. I think sometimes as Christians, we're going to get our little group together and we
Yeah.
all think alike and believe alike. And it's so cool and we're in a small group now, but we've always tried to do the deal with an there's always open chairs in the group
Yes.
because we wanted to be able to, if we ran into somebody and knew they were struggling or maybe they were questioning and stuff, just to say, hey, come and sit with us, because I think it's so important for us to do that and not isolate ourselves.
Yes. Yes.
So
Widen
that's
that
so
table.
neat.
Bring out more chairs. Absolutely.
Yeah. So one of the things I loved is how you define your family as a circus, and I can identify that. We only had 2 kids, but then we've got 5 grandkids. We've got a great grandkid.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I
So
understand the whole circus deal. But in the midst of that, because I work in counseling with so many people that, those kids come and things kind of change a little bit. So how did you guys keep your marriage strong with raising the kids, the chaos, all the stuff you guys are doing, going to seminary and work and all those kind of things? Because
yes.
it's a delicate balance, I think, for a lot of people.
You are absolutely right. One of the biggest
Yeah.
things, and it's not necessarily quote unquote spiritual, but I actually think it is making sure there's humor and lightness happening in our house.
Mm,
So the minute we could start to nitpick, like, well, I took the garbage out yesterday and you did the whatever, whatever, and starting to divide and keeping accounts that are full and not short. My husband is
yeah.
really good at then starting to make light of something, to poke at me, to make me laugh, to make something absurd. And then it doesn't get so heavy. It becomes
Mm,
fun and light. And like, you're right. Like, I am starting to do that thing, or you're starting to do that thing. And let's just call it what it is and let it
yeah.
dissipate and not build. Yeah. So,
That's so good. And yeah,
yeah,
just
humor. It's huge.
that it is huge, and because I think a lot of times, and I see that with Nancy and I, and with people at council. Sometimes I'll counsel people, they tell me this horrible fight they had, and so, well, what was it about? What started? And they think, I don't know, but we fought. So I know we can fight over a lot of things. We can let some things become bigger than they are, and some of that I think comes with having kids around and the
Mhm,
stress and all this stuff going on, that things get
mhm.
blown up in proportion. But I love it too. I think humor is such a way to kind of bring things back down to earth. And then you can
Yes.
say, okay, if we need to talk about it, let's talk about this. But if
Yeah.
is it something we just need to let go of and just put
Is
in God's
yes.
hands?
Yes. And to live try to live as the least amount like, I don't wanna live offended, and I could
Yeah.
easily be offended in my marriage, especially with the amount of kids and the amount of workload we're always dividing and conquering. If I start to just play that game in my head that I'm doing way more than he is or something,
Hmm.
to lower the temperature, look around, and definitely have open communication about it, but continue to think, okay, where can we be light and free about this and not make everything an offense?
Yeah, that's good. It is good. When I went back to seminary, the kids were little, and I was working, and so a lot of my studying was late at night and stuff, and I was so tired sometimes, and I know I was irritable at times, and Nancy would do the same thing. She'd kind of bring me down, and and I'd say something like, "I am going to seminary. I am doing God's work. Just And she'd go, that doesn't matter. You're still a dad and you're still a husband,
Yes.
and that's got to come first. And I thought, okay. So she's always been good about helping me with that. And so we've always had some buzzwords to kind of bring each other back to
Yes.
reality at times, which has really helped a lot.
I love that. I will say one other thing that helps is if I do feel at a max, like you just said a buzzword, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, we learn this in therapy together. I will give a number on a scale of 1 to 10, just a number. At 10 is
Mm.
like, I'm going to lose my mind. And so if he walks in the door and I'm like, I'm at a 9, kids are everywhere, Cheerios are everywhere, pots are boiling over, like he's like, go take a walk. I got it. And just,
Yeah,
if I can just get a number out, that is enough to communicate in the moment that I need a break.
sure. And then it gives him a chance to respond.
Yes.
And say, yeah, because I think we can't read each other's minds, and I think some
Right.
people still expect their spouse to do that, and you just can't.
I
We've been
know.
married
I
55
wish.
years, and I still can't read her mind.
Right.
But I think that what I love the 1 to 10. We do that, and I tell people that all the time. Just let your spouse know where you are on this.
Yeah.
If it's a 2, then let them know it's a 2, and then they know, okay, we can just roll with this. And if it's a 9 or 10, then okay, how can I help you? So I love that you brought that up because I think it's such a good tool for us to use and can make
Huge.
such a difference
Yes.
in
Yes.
what goes on in our marriages and our communication, like things like that.
Yeah.
I love that you're so open about things you've been through and that you walked through depression, anxiety, there's ADHD, there's Crohn's. So what have you learned about God as you've gone through those things? So the things, some really difficult things, when you list that list, it's just, there's a lot in there.
Yeah. There's a lot in there. I continue to experience God as my shepherd in so many
Mm,
ways. I can understand why Psalm 23 has become a beloved psalm across the
mm,
world, across denominations, because relating to God as one who shepherds me, is with me in the valley, leads me, guides me, even has, like, I've experienced his comfort in the middle of really dark places and his leadership where I've
mhm.
thought, I don't know where to go next. I don't know what the next move is with a kid in this situation, in a variety of things. When you're staring at a diagnosis, you don't even know what it means. What is Crohn's disease? The first time we
Yeah.
saw that, my son was 11, and it just was
Mm,
overwhelming. And I look back and I think, man, he was a faithful shepherd, literally herding us along the way, just with the next step. And I love the visual of the rod and staff will be our comfort in Psalm
mm,
23, because that staff is that shepherd's hook to grab the sheep when they're stuck in a ravine or they're going the wrong way. It's to
yeah.
curl around that sheep and bring them back to the shepherd. And I experienced that too when I just was going in my mind was just feasting on anxiety and fear.
Yeah.
He would pull me close and say, this, stay with me. There's peace here. So yeah, God is a shepherd.
So what would you say to someone that's listening, they're going through, maybe they're going through something, one of those things or something else that's really hard right now. And they're thinking, how do I do that with God?
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
I would say first read Psalm 23, get to it and read
Mm,
it. And I honestly love to sit with it and close my eyes and imagine myself with God next to me shepherding. I love to try to use my holy imagination
mm,
and close my eyes and picture myself being taken care of by a shepherd, because
mm.
when you are overwhelmed, you are in a valley, it is dark. I want someone to take care of me and tell me it's going to be okay. And the words in
Yeah.
there are very comforting to me. His goodness and mercy will follow me all of my days.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to bank on that. So to grab onto some of those words helps pull me out of some spiraling that I can have when
Hmm.
things are really hard, really dark,
Sure.
really grief filled. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, I guess all of us love the 23rd Psalm, but it's so meaningful. But I think the other thing that you said, I like you took time out to sit with God, to sit with the 23rd Psalm, to let that just become part of you, really, and let
Yeah.
God teach you through that. And I think sometimes when we're in those situations, we don't take the time to do that. But I
Yeah.
think it's with what you're saying, and from my experience, it's essential to do that. It's okay to take that time out. The world will
Yes.
be okay. God will take care of the world while you take time to take care of yourself.
Mm, so good. Yep.
Yeah. And that's such a good word for people because and I think sometimes just in counseling that just the fact that they sit there for an hour with me and we can talk through things and we can pray and we can, things like that. We need to take time to do those things
Yes.
because it
That's
makes a
such a
difference
good
for us.
word. Yes. Because
Yeah.
we're running hard and to refill. So good.
Yeah. And I think the nothing harder for Nancy and I that's when a child, something's wrong with a child. You just I don't know, it's just like you wanna fix them so quickly, and
Yes.
you can't,
Hmm.
so you gotta figure out how do I walk through this with them and help them learn through that.
Yes.
I'm sure he looked at you guys' faith and where you guys were in there, and that, if I continue to be all out of sorts, I mean, that's not helping my child or grandchild very much at all.
Right.
It's like,
Yes.
what's wrong with them?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I need
yeah,
you to be anchored for
yeah.
me. Yeah.
Yes, yes, exactly. So let's talk about the things you went through. But what was the hardest season in your marriage, and how did God move into that space
Yeah.
for the two of you?
Truly, you just said it a minute ago. When something hits one of our kids, that definitely affects our marriage because
Mm,
decisions have to be made. There's high stress, there's your own grief, and then you're trying to help your kid. There's a lot in that blender. And so truly when my son was diagnosed with Crohn's, this is about 6.5 years ago. My husband and I were on different pages on a health and treatment plan for how we were going to move forward for our kid. I wanted
okay.
to go one path and he wanted to go another. And I remember looking at him in the backyard and we kind of had this like face off. And I looked at him and I was like, I need to go pray about it. And so do you. Like, I'm so like, there's not like, we are just. And I went upstairs and I just threw myself on the bed and I just cried and prayed. And I asked God to get my husband on my side of the page because I
Of
was
course you did.
I
Yeah,
was
you
so
were right.
convinced. I was right. And it turned out we did go the route that I had wanted. But the thing was, in that moment, I really wanted to dig my heels in and say we're going this way, but that wasn't going to I couldn't make my husband get on my page. That wasn't mine to do. But man,
Yeah.
I didn't anticipate that we were going to we were just going to have to wait it out and see how
Mm,
this would go until we could get on the same page. And that was actually that time I felt really alone and I really did feel like God was my only friend in that moment. Like he was the only
mm.
one who could understand the stance I was taking and the way I wanted to go. And I had to just wait. I had to wait on God. I had to wait on my husband. And yeah, we had a hard time communicating until we were able to get on the page and move forward for the health of our kid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you both wanted the same end result, right? It was just how do we get there? That was the
Yes.
problem between
Yes.
the two of you. Yeah, and I think too, I mean, obviously you guys came together because I don't think God tells one spouse one thing and one the other.
Right.
Eventually there's got to be a coming together. But yeah, we're different people, and sometimes that comes out in a crisis situation that we
Yes.
didn't really anticipate. We're going to be so different on this.
Yeah.
But then I think what you did, going to prayer and letting God guide you guys through that. And so, how's he doing now? Because I know people are going to.
My oldest is doing great. He's thriving. He's on the tennis team. He's doing well academically. He's dating. He's doing so well. And the treatment, we just changed diet. We started with diet before we did anything else. I'm not anti-medicine. I'm all about it, but the diet change was transformative. So, and
Oh
he's
yeah,
doing great. Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. Yeah, I worked with a young man, and he was probably about 15 when he was diagnosed. But the same thing, I think that the diet helped him so much because he was eating a teenage diet,
Yeah. Oh,
what
yeah.
everybody else, and that wasn't working. And so diet was such a big part of it. Yeah,
Huge, but a
that's good.
huge
I'm
change, huge
so glad
lifestyle
he's doing
change.
well. Oh
Yeah, he
yeah,
is.
yeah. But he saw the results of it.
Exactly.
So couples looking, and so they're having faith issues, they're parenting, they got their own struggles. What would you say to them?
First of all, I would say you're not alone. You're not you're not
Mm,
the only one who is carrying the load and the weight of the world. We are all struggling. We're all struggling. But I would say also we have a God who weeps with us when it's hard and walks with us through the hard.
mm,
And we can come to him. Like one of my favorite thoughts is that Jesus put on flesh and moved into the neighborhood, says the message
I
about
I
John.
love
And
that.
he's moved into the neighborhood with us, and we really can come to him and ask for what you need. If you need wisdom because you don't know what to do, ask him. And God has wisdom to give.
Mm,
But yeah, take the time to quiet yourself and ask God, and you're not alone in the very hard things you're carrying.
that's so good. And I think a couple of things that I've seen help people the last couple of years, and it's The Chosen. I think people have
Yes.
seen Jesus in that series is so human God, but so human, and it's like I can relate to that. And then the He Gets Us campaign that just has,
Yes.
I think it's just got so much power in it to put God where He wants to be, right in the middle of our lives, and to know, and you also feel like you can touch Him, in those situations. And so I just love what you said, because we need to know that we're not alone, and He really does care, and we just have to let Him care for us, I guess, really.
Yes.
Just let,
Yeah.
and I tell couples, people all the time, I said, give Him a chance. He will show up. I promise you.
Yeah. I
I've never
love
seen Him
that.
not show up. Yeah, He's going to show up for you.
Give them a chance.
That's
It's
it.
so good. I also go on a lot of walks where I just might look like a person who's talking to herself and has her own thing going on, but I talk to God on walks around the block to just kind of pour out my heart. And
Yep.
sometimes I hear nothing back. Sometimes I feel listened to, but I don't know if that helps somebody. A walk and talk with God, see what happens.
I think so. I think there's some that seems that, and I think even for walking and talking, there's some to be something therapeutic or something about
hmm
that. There
hmm
really is. And
hmm
yeah, that's cool. And that's a great thing to do, man. If you're just get outside, walk around, and talk to the Lord, that's really good.
Yeah.
So you do so much. We talked about that. So where's the balance? All the stuff we talked about already that you're doing. How do you find balance? Because you got a husband, you got a family. God says where they ought to be in the order. So where does it come?
Some days I am juggling balls and I drop them all. The balance,
Yeah,
it seems the balance comes when I'm able to voice what I need help with. And then the village around us, there's no way that I can do my life if it wasn't for some of the women in my neighborhood where we share rides for all of our kids for all the things
mm,
they're involved in. So village life. we
yeah,
the moms ask for help and we help each other all the time. When I did decide to go back to grad school, we looked at our kids and my husband was like, that means mom can't do all the things that are on her plate and we've got to redistribute what she's doing. So everybody does their own laundry now. And we just had to divide what was on,
yeah,
like if mom goes to school, we're all going to school. Like that's what's going to go on here.
yep, yep.
So really talking honestly with like, what does she carry to do that? So we are, yeah, village and also saying when I blew something and I did drop a ball to be like, I am sorry, you guys. Can you help? I need
Mm,
help. I just, it's
yeah,
hard to say you need help But man, it's rewarding because then it takes that, maybe that wall down that you can do it all on your own, your self-sufficiency, and to say, no, we need each other here. My kids included, my neighborhood, my community. Yeah.
I think it is. It's interesting you said that because I was talking to a lady last week, and she was saying how hard it is to ask for help, and I think that is something. And I think maybe I hadn't really thought about that. Wives may be there sometimes. They just don't want to. They don't want to ask for help, or maybe they trying. I don't think they're trying to be superwoman, but they think I've got this responsibility and I want to do my best at it. But it's okay to ask for help, right? Your
Yes.
husband, your kids. How did the kids take it saying, okay, you got some chores now that
Yeah.
mom was doing. You're gonna learn to do your laundry. How did they do with that?
When we first talked about it at dinner, I was like, should I go to seminary? Like, should I do it? And the kids were like, yeah. And then the next thing was, well, that means that mom's going to have to do less. And there was this kind of like look around like, wait, what?
Wait,
So so when it dawned on them, they were less enthusiastic. Yeah. So we do have frequent conversations about reminding, like, we all, like, this is part of being a Seiffert. This
yeah,
is part of being a family. Like, we all help. There are some kids that are more prone to help than others under my roof.
sure,
So we
yeah,
so we have regular conversations about what it means, which I think everybody does, which is fine. We all need to be
yeah.
reminded of responsibilities, chores, all that.
I think and my son and daughter have both done this. My son did it first, and he's probably in his in his 20s, and he came back and said, "Thank you." All the stuff that I rolled my eyes at that you had us do, thank you. And I thought, well, that's good. And then I've seen him raise his kids, and yeah, he replicated a lot of things that we did, and things he didn't like we did. He kicked out, but I guess what I'm saying to you and the others out there, I think there'll come a day that your kids come back and they're grateful for that.
Mm.
I'm so glad I knew how to do laundry because the person I married doesn't know how, or
Right.
something like that,
Real. Yes.
or going off to school and think I get, my roommate keeps wearing the same underwear every day, and I know how to wash mine. Not washing his, but I know how to wash
But I
mine.
can do mine.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So I think, it's
Oh,
not, I guess, I think sometimes moms feel guilty about passing some of those things on. I don't think you should feel guilty. I think it's something you're teaching. It's part of training them up,
yes.
and
Yes.
being a part of a family and knowing we want mom to go to seminary. And so we have a part in that. We're not going to class. We're not writing papers. We're not
Yeah.
reading all this stuff,
Yeah.
but we can do the laundry and we can help around the house. And when she says she needs help, we can. So I think it gives them opportunities that they will
Yes.
value. Maybe not till they have their own family, but they will
Right.
value someday.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love hearing that. Thank you, Beck. That's really sweet. I hope I get one. That's really
I think you will. You talked about humor when you tell stories and stuff. And I love that. You talked about how your husband's so good at putting humor in. How's it been a tool for healing faith in your life? Where does the humor come in that part of your life?
Yes, I'm a big fan. Whenever I speak or preach, I really try to bring some element of levity, humor, anything, because it immediately takes down walls. If there's any stress or anxiety in
Mhm.
the room, if you laugh with somebody, something happens in your
Yeah.
body, you release it. Also, usually if it's at my own expense, then they feel like, okay, they can relate to me. I think humor is huge when it comes to communication. I'm a big fan of that in my writing and my teaching and my speaking because it just normalizes our humanity together and our common experience.
Yeah.
And that's, you mentioned The Chosen. I love it. You see the humor that they built into Jesus's life. And I think we forget that. He had to have
Yeah.
been funny. Like, that's
Yes. Yes. Seeing him smile and laugh is just
yes,
great.
it's great. And that's one of my
Yeah.
favorite things to do is to laugh. There's connection there. Yeah, I never want to underestimate what humor can do in conveying any kind of message.
Yeah, it does. And it makes such a difference. And just to stop and think that, everything we have, God gave us. So if we enjoy laughter,
Yes.
of course he enjoyed laughter. We're made in
Yes.
his image. And so I think it's sometimes we don't get there. We think of God being too serious sometimes,
Yes.
but yeah, but Joey laughs. Yeah. And
Yes.
I think he loves it when we laugh. and
I do
enjoy
too.
the things He gives us for sure. So we've probably got people listening, watching today that are really trying to juggle everything. And I love that you have confessed you're not perfect in that. And because none of us are, boy, I still do drop some balls at times.
Oh yeah.
So how would you encourage somebody to, because I think sometimes we forget there's seasons and we
Yeah.
think sometimes the season is going on forever. And it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. You know what? I would encourage just what you said. No feeling is forever, no season is forever. And so when I start to feel stuck or overwhelmed, or this is taking too long, or any number of things, it is helpful
Hmm.
for me to think this for now is not forever. A friend said that to me, and I remember just thinking, okay, this is so helpful. And I live in Ohio, and I love watching the seasons change because it brings me hope that I am not
Yeah.
in
Yes.
this season forever. And spring is coming, and things are happening in the darkness. Seeds are buried, and a lot happens because of the darkness. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I agree. So, with all the stuff that you're calling and writing, did you ever have a time that you questioned your calling, God's plan for you?
yes. Um, Many times. In fact, it's funny. After I launch a book into the world, I can question, what am I even doing with my life? The irony, like you to
Mm,
put to spend years researching, writing, and putting a work into the world, and once it's out there, I can just feel this letdown of like, well, there it is, and wondering, it's just a bit of a mind game, and so I have to come back to, okay, I've seen people being impacted by my writing or my teaching, and to remember that there is real life change, and I can look back on that. I'm not very good at
mm,
looking at my past, but I need to collect those receipts so that when I'm in a day when I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, I can look at those and say, okay, here's some breadcrumbs from what I've been following and what God is doing in my life and my call. Because self-doubt, imposter syndrome, all those things creep in so easily. And I can
sure.
wonder if I'm doing anything at all.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's why I've journaled off and on for years. And I was looking back through one that just picked it up. And it was actually one when my dad had passed away. And it was probably the hardest thing I'd gone through at that time in my life because,
Mhm.
we're so close. But looking back at that, it just helped me remember how God got me through that, how faithful He was. He
Yes.
helped me realize that for a week I put on double contacts and wondering why I couldn't see well that week. and, when I took them off at the end of the week, and I thought, oh my gosh, I've been wearing two contacts all
That's
week.
amazing.
But just to be able to, I think that helps me to, when I go through something, think, oh, where is God in this? And then to look back and say, oh yeah, He's the same place. He was
Yes.
there and He is here now. And
Yeah.
I need that because I can forget,
Yes.
and reading through the Old Testament, the Israelites forgot a lot.
All the time.
We're all in the same boat with that. We forget the things that are so important.
Yeah.
I want to talk about a couple things that you're doing now. I want to talk about the podcast seminary series, kind of talk a little bit about that, and I want to talk about the book.
Yeah. Great. Yeah.
What about Seminary Sisters? Tell
Oh
us.
my goodness. It's so fun. So there's 16 of us in our cohort, and one girl immediately we just gravitated toward each other. There was a lot of you too, me too. And
Yeah,
and then since then we just have left each other voicemails throughout the week as we're working on things, or we have questions, or we discover things, and we end up feeling like we're leaving personal podcasts to each other. That's what's happening right now. And we
yeah,
we should just record these because for a couple of reasons. One, I don't want to forget all the things I'm learning because man, it is a fire hydrant, as you know.
sure.
It's coming at you. But two, if I have talked to so many women who would have loved to go to seminary or still would want to, but they've got so many things going on, or maybe it was they never even thought it was an option for them. I didn't think
Mm,
it was an option for me. It was offered to the men and on the staff team. Like I just And so we want to bring what we're learning to those who would love to be in the classroom with us and to say, hey, this week, these are the sorts of things we're talking about. So it's a really fun project. We really just hit record and start talking about what we're learning, and we laugh, we
That's
learn.
great.
It's great. We've had professors on, and you know, it's good, a good time.
We talked before we went live that your professors are learning from the 16 of you also.
Yes. Yes. We always joke with them. We're like, are we so much? Are we not enough? Like, what's happening? Like we're crying at
Yeah,
least, someone is crying at least once each 3-hour class.
sure. Of course.
And our professors are amazing. Like they have said, no, this has been a radically different experience than we've had in the past, but we are loving this. So
Awesome.
yeah,
I bet.
it's so fun.
Exactly. That's cool. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I would encourage people to listen in to Seminary Sisters. And let's talk about the book. Your Name is Daughter. It came out a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Talk about that because I think it's a powerful book.
Yes. Yeah, it's what the unsung women of the Bible teach us about our worth. So my I've been really taken by the woman called the bleeding woman in Luke 8 and Mark 5.
Mm,
And what's interesting is that's her name. That's what we get. That's how she's defined, by her condition, the bleeding woman.
yeah.
And who wants to be defined by their issues? Not me, but but
No,
that's her
no,
name,
no.
right?
Right.
That's what we know her by. But I think it's so powerful that not only does she reach out in faith and touches just the edge of his cloak, and she finds healing in her body, but I think just as powerful, even maybe more, is the fact that Jesus stops, turns around, seeks her, and he wants to talk with her, wants to have a conversation. In fact,
Yeah.
he has a name for her. He calls her daughter. And she's the
Yeah.
only woman named daughter, the only one he refers to as daughter. This woman who is destitute, who is penniless. It says she's gone to all these doctors
Yeah.
and she keeps getting worse. And I just could not get away from Jesus really renaming her, not by her condition, but by her position as a loved
So
one
good.
with the daughter. Yeah, that's the daughter of Most High King. And I thought, you know what? That's all of us. That's who we are.
Hmm.
If we put our faith in Jesus, we become family. We get brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles, and Jesus is our brother. And he's like, this is my father. Here, your name is daughter. And so I wanted to explore, what does it mean to have that name daughter? I wanted to look at daughters in the Old Testament through the New, what they're doing, how they're participating with God in the meta narrative of redemptive history, and just encourage women about how they're made and the gifts that they have. We have a voice to use, not hide, and just really explore who we are as women.
That's so good. Oh, it's so good. I encourage people to pick it up, and you can get it anywhere at this point. And
Yes.
so that's and thank you for writing something like that. I've never, as many times as I have read that story, as I saw it in The Chosen, I have never thought about that. I've never made the transition from the woman with the issue to daughter. And that, thank you for that. It's powerful.
Yes.
It's
Yeah. You're
powerful.
welcome.
Yeah. That's so good. So good. So what's next? What's next for Amie Seiffert?
Oh, man. Laundry, if I'm honest, there's a load behind me that needs to be folded. Launching this book is a nice sigh of relief. It's been a huge project. And so I've got a year and a half of seminary to go. So that is what I'm going to do.
Sure.
I'm going to do seminary well. I'm going to be on my teaching team, on my church staff well. And so I just removed one of the balls I'm juggling with a book out in the world. That feels really good.
I bet there is that kind of feeling of relief and
Yeah.
because there's always something else to do.
Yes. Yeah.
So the podcast, the book, other ways that people want to find you, where can they find you?
Yeah. I love Instagram. I think it's really fun. So you can find me at Amie Seiffert at Instagram, and all my good, fun freebie things I have going on at amieseiffert.com. I've got free printables, and you can find my books and podcast over there. So
Yeah, I would encourage people to go there. I was browsing around it earlier today, and oh my gosh, and there's freebies on there. So
yeah.
uh, and they're good. So take some time to do that. Amie, thank you for spending time with us today. Best of luck on seminary as you continue that. And I love the podcast you got to sharing things with other women. What a blessing that is for people. And thanks again for being with us today.
Thanks so much for having me. It was a joy.